the idea, everything in its totality as captured in this motion. Because our commitment to cut down costs, to reduce waste in the public sector, I think it's something that we all share. And when the executive have taken decision, it's not abolishing the responsibilities of the film industry. It's probably reducing it as a department so that you can cut down your overhead and save money for other things. Just earlier, before this one now, we spent time debating what government should do to ameliorate the current food crisis. We just have limited resources at every point in time. So steps being taken by the executive to give effect to the more talked about Orosanye report. I don't think that this Senate should block that effort. When it has been done, I believe at the appropriate time, the executive can forward if it is necessary. If it is necessary. You can have a law say create something, but what is the penalty if it is not created? I suggest that given our commitment to cut down public expenditure and the fact that we all share the idea that we should rationalize multiple agencies so that resources can be better applied where they are needed most, it will be a sad day if we appear to do anything that will revise what the executive is trying to do in giving effect to the recommendations of the Orosanye report, which most Nigerians accept and expect the president to carry to conclusion. Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President, sir. Mr. President, sir. 2012. The report on public sector reforms revealed that there were 541 statutory and non-statutory federal government parastatals, commissions, and agencies. Aware that the 800-page report recommended that 263 of the statutory agencies be slashed to 161, 38 agencies be scrapped, 52 be merged, and 14 be reverted to departments in various ministries. Also aware that media reports that the Presidential Committee under the chairmanship of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, has now commenced the implementation of the report. Further aware that a memo signed by the SGF directed to the Honorable Minister of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy mandated the immediate dissolution of the National Film and Video Censors Board, which will now be integrated as a department within the ministry instead of operating as a separate federal agency. Concerned that the directive violates the National Film and Video Censors Board Act CAF 40, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 as amended. The process of winding down an agency of government which came into force through an act of parliament should first commence by the repeal of the act establishing the said agency. The Orosanye report is a committee report that should not override the act of parliament. Notes with deep concern that the ministry has was instructed to complete the administrative and financial processes to wind down the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board within 3 weeks, with effect from June 21st to 2024, and report back to the SGF's office within the first month after it became a department of the ministry. And conscious that this abuse of rule of law, if goes unchecked, will become a bad precedent going forward. There is therefore the need to promptly check this illegality by insisting that the right procedure for winding down a statutory agency like that of the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board be followed. The Senate accordingly resolves to call on the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and the Honorable Minister of Culture and the Arts, Culture and the Creative Economy to suspend the wind down of the National Film and Video Censors Board forthwith. Also call on the Office of the SGF and other relevant agencies of government to immediately commence the process of repealing any act establishing the National Film and Video Censors Board if need be, and urge the federal government to continue with the winding down of National and Video Censors Board and other agencies only when Mr. President signs the repeal act of such an agency. I so move. Thank you, Mr. President.
To commend the mover of this motion, I believe that the mover of this motion is also in tune of the streaming of MDAs and agencies of government. But what he wants us to know is that we cannot be working against the act establishing these agencies. And I believe that all of us believe in the streaming. And as soon as we are all in tune and a bill for repeal is brought to us, I'm very certain that this patriotic assembly, Senate, will read and fast-track the repealing of the law. So the issue here is that we are with Mr. President, we are with the system, we all agree that there is a need to reduce. But if there is a law on ground, there is a need for us to repeal properly and on time to ensure that the criminalization comes without any act that is against the law establishing the agencies. So I support it, and I think that by doing that we'll succeed, sir.
Senator Sani Musa.
Commend the mover of this motion. He has done a very, very solid job. I am one of the strong advocates of the implementation of Orosanye panel reports. I am in total support of the implementation of that report, and I want to commend the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because the quest to implement this report has been on for several years, since the report was first released. But it was during the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that the implementation is taking place. And I commend the President for that, because without implementation of this cost, these multiple agencies, even which functions override each other, will not be streamlined. So taking the bull by the horn, streamlining this agency is a right step in the right direction. But what is the clause there? The mover of the motion make it loud and clear. It's not against the implementation of the report. What is against is that let the rule of law be followed to the latter. That while this repealing is going on, this streamlining is going on, that we should formally be notified by the President informing us that decision or action has been taken on this implementation of this Orosanye panel report affecting the following agencies of the government, so that on our own part here, we can repeal all those laws. Because if these agencies were merged and the law is still in existence, there will be conflict of interest. Some people will work in accordance with the law as passed by the National Assembly, not knowing that that agency itself does no longer exist as an agency, but rather a department in the government agency or the ministries that is affected. So, Mr. President, I agree in totality and I second this motion, moved by my brother, Senator Onao, that we should follow it to the latter. We are in support of the action of the President streamlining this agency, but the needful must be done in trying to take steps to repeal those laws so that the work can be concluded once and for all. Thank you, Mr. President. I so submit.
Senator Blank.
I stand also to support the mover of this motion, because if we are going to scrub agencies that have existing laws, there's always need for us to repeal those laws and then enact another law that will tally with where they will be functioning, so that they cannot just be functioning in vacuum. Film and sensor industry, sensor industry in this country need real laws that will govern them, so that against all this piracy and the rest of it. But if they are department as well, those laws can be enacted to go in line with whichever ministries they are domiciled to, so that we don't create a situation whereby we are just making them departments and they are not protected by laws, just as it is internationally. So I believe that what Senator Onao brought is in line with the direction of this government. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator.
The different arms of government must synergize, since most actions of government cannot be done by one arm alone. When we make laws there, we say take it to the presidency to sign off on. These actions of Orosonye's report, very good, very impactful. What the government should have done is to tell us, not even these films and censors board alone, all the agencies that will not be functional henceforth. Then this Senate will now work with the president to repeal all those acts, because it's not only this what they are going to do. So there is need for us to put additional prayer. All those agencies that will be affected, either merged, scrapped, whatever, should be sent to us for legislative action, so that there is synergy between us and them. That is why even that report ought to have been brought to us formally, so that we are in tune 100% with whatever it is written there. There is nothing that Senator Onao has done than bringing forth the need for synergy between us and the executive arm, that we must work together. They cannot start and finish it. We cannot start and finish it here. We must work together. In working together, there is need for information, so that we do not work at cross purpose. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Zam Titus.
Very much for saying this, our corner too. Yeah, I rise to support the motion moved by my brother, the distinguished Senator Onao, but to modify his motion in this way. The tone of his motion suggests that the SGF is the problem, or whatever. No, please, the police, don't misunderstand me. I didn't say he has personalized it. What I want to say rather is that
Senator Zam,
I have already withdrawn.
Restrict yourself to contributions to the national interest, not homemade political intrigues.
I just wanted to say that
the SGF will still support you during the next election. So contribute.
Thank you very much for that correction, sir. But all I wanted to say is that the implementation of the Orosanye panel report by the office of the SGF is only an implementation agency and not the initiator, as the tone of this motion is suggesting. But having said that, I support entirely what he has said, and I also associate myself completely with the need for the National Assembly to be informed properly, so that we don't, amend this, have these motions in piecemeal, because the report is bulky, involving several agencies of government. So there should be a comprehensive report made available to the National Assembly, so that we can handle this once and for all. I so suggest, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me.
My name is Mohamed Tahir Moguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Well, I have listened carefully and attentively to all the submissions made by the previous speakers. What I want to say is that although the relationship between the executive and the legislature should be a mutually symbiotic relationship, that does not in any way connote that we surrender our powers as given to us by Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance to the executive. In whatever we are doing, we should jealously guard and protect the powers that is given to the legislature. We should not allow the executive to erode these powers through executive fiat. And therefore, all actions of the executive that needs legislative intervention should be brought to the legislature for necessary legislative intervention as the case instanta. Because the motion instanta also, the subject matter of the motion instanta also needs legislative intervention because it requires a repeal of an existing law. We should never surrender this power. We should always jealously guard and protect that power. And the executive should not act through executive fiat. There should be legislative intervention. So I don't know whether I have spoken the mind of the President of the Senate.
Okay.
It's just direct to the point, very clear.
Very
What
clear.
he's asking for is simply to pull together the Orosanye report, bring a bill to the National Assembly, and then those agencies will be repealed through that bill, and then they stand repealed. Simple. I think that is what is, should be done, because you have these entities created by law, and now you don't want it to remain. So the simple thing is to bring bill. So the SGF should ask Mr. President to give him the go-ahead to bring a bill encapsulating all these entities in that bill. And that we brought here, and then we'll now pass the bill, and then they'll stand scrap once and for all. I just of you, Mr. President.
In 2006, the federal government scrapped an agency of the Ministry of Education called NINLAN, National Institute for Nigerian Languages. But the Senate in 2007 refused and said, you have to bring, because it's a law that has set it up, you must bring a bill to repeal that act. The government of President Yaradua brought a bill here to repeal that NINLAN, and it was rejected on this floor because everyone, all the speakers that they found out that that was the only institute teaching Nigerian languages, that they had an institute for Arabic studies and an institute for French studies, and none for Nigerian languages. And so we rejected it on the floor here in 2008. So there is a precedent for this, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
There is no evidence that the directive by the SGF was in line with Orosanye report. There is nothing, if you have said that the SGF in a memo directed that in implementing the Orosanye report, the National Film and Video Censors Board is now to become a directorate. That would have been an infringement of our acts of parliament. Because at that stage, we will say he has no authority to do so, unless that act was repealed. So, but he didn't say that. There is no evidence to that effect. So I don't want us to go into saying that the presidency is implementing the Orosanye report, because if the presidency wishes to implement the Orosanye report, due process must be followed. And that due process means that all the acts of parliament that are in existence will now be brought before the parliament for further consideration. And you can only begin to implement it when the parliament is in agreement with you. Because if you, for instance, Senator Abaribe has just pointed out, if you bring like this video and National Film and Video Censors Board Act, and the parliament says no, we rather want to include more things for implementation, it means it stays alive. Unless the president refuses to sign our amendment. If he doesn't sign the amendment, the initial act of parliament remains. I don't know whether you understand. So there must be a reason. We can't direct the executive on how they implement their things connected with their various agencies. But here, that they did not come to us means that the National Film and Video Censors Board Act is still in existence. Whatever they are saying that certain sections should report to maybe a directorate in SGF and all that does not negate the fact that this is still in existence. So all the arguments we have made here go to nothing because it is still in existence. That's the point I wanted to make, that why do we begin now to cry, waste time and cry when this act is still in existence? We are talking as if the act is not in existence. It's in existence. It will only cease to be in existence when there is a bill before us requesting for repeal. And then we are currently say so. So I commend the mover of the motion because if you look at paragraph 5 or so, it said concern that the directive violates the National Film and Video Censors Board Act Cap 40, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, as amended. That means he acknowledges it. He said the process of winding down an agency, if that is what they are doing, should come into force through the Act of Parliament. First, they should commence by the repeal of the Act. So he gave reasons, he gave us solution here. And so he also advised the office of the SGF through this motion. Then he went further to say that he said that within 3 weeks, with effect from this, that the SGF's office should receive a report that it has become a department in the office of the SGF. So within those 3 weeks, the SGF is leaving room to follow due process, which means the intention to revert to Parliament may be there. So we are just, we are jumping the gun. And then he now said, conscious that this abuse of rule of law, if it is true, if it goes unchecked, will become a bad precedent. There is no way the federal government of Nigeria can commence the implementation of Orosanye report by just repealing acts of parliament through sending them to agencies, to departments of various ministries or office of the Secretary to Government. They know the right thing to do. The Attorney General of the Federation is alive to his responsibilities. So I commend the mover of this motion, and I urge us to look at the prayers, particularly prayer 1 says, call on the Secretary to Government of the Federation and the Honorable Minister of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy to suspend the winding down of the National Film and Video Censors Board if it is true. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. As amended, if it is true. Prayer 2, call on the Office of Secretary to Government of the Federation and other relevant agencies of government to immediately commence the process of repealing the act establishing the national, if need be. Those in support of prayer 2 as amended, if need be, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it, if need be. Prayer 3, urge the federal government to continue with the winding down. We are not aware that the federal government is winding down, but those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. So let me thank the remover of the motion and to say that the Parliament is not yet aware that the Orosanye report is being implemented. And whatever is happening there, we would like to urge our committee on creative arts and to look into the issue and get back to us to be sure that, yes, indeed, you are oversighting that agency, should go ahead to check. By the way, that agency ought to be under the Committee on Tourism, am I right? Culture and Tourism. The DSP, am I right? Culture and Tourism. And the former chairman of the Committee on Culture and Tourism has said because of religious issues that he may not be able to chair that committee. So temporarily, I think we should hand over that committee to distinguished Senator Lalong to handle in the meantime until we do a holistic review of our various committees. Those in support of the suggestion of the Senate President say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Senator.
I remember vividly last time when the Orosanye report issue came up in the presidency, and the president gave a directive setting up a committee to look at those in the Orosanye report and make appropriate recommendations. But that was presented as if the president or the executive has given approval for the merger of the said institutions. And it generated a lot of tension because it is this same National Assembly that created those agencies under just different leadership. If we come here to just, without critical debate analysis, to write off those agencies, we are harming the institution. As Senator Mongono said, this is an institution deliberately created by our Constitution for a purpose. And that purpose is to look at our laws. By enacting it, by amending it, by repealing it. And that is our responsibility. So, it is very important for you, Mr. President, as the head of this institution. And even the president said last time, because in the Orosanye report, an institution that was created and sponsored by me was included. And you said...
This Senator, this Senate is not... That was probably submitted to the president after he set it up to look at possible implementation. It's not before us. If the report of the possible implementation of the Orosanye report, either in whole or in part, is forwarded to us, it is our business to look into those things.
Yeah, no, but Mr. President,
those things are not before us now.
No, we are arriving at something. We are on the same page. But all I'm saying is, through this, because it's on a record, it should be on record that some of these things is not before the National Assembly. So the National Assembly cannot be held responsible for what is not before it.
The National Assembly cannot even discuss what is not before it.
Yes.
And so what we are advising is that please don't mention a Orosanye report.
Okay.
It is not before us. So, and even the report that the report of the committee set up by the president is not before us. We really have nothing to discuss. And then, of course, by the time the report comes, there may be certain agencies that we may not agree with the executive. And there may be need for us to approach them or approach Mr. President to say this one should not be included among the agencies to be wound up. And there may be some others that could have been excluded, which in the opinion of the parliament, we feel they should be meshed. And we will still approach the president and say this one ought to be meshed, but it is not included in the report you sent to us. So since it is not yet before us, we should not dissipate our energy reporting we are fishing in troubled waters. Accordingly, this Senate is hereby adjourned to the 10th day of July, 2000.